Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Painting the Minis of Mansions of Madness with Foster the Meeple. Today we're going to be painting one of the game's monsters. This is the Child of Dagon. The Child of Dagon. In the Lovecraftian lore, Dagon is this kind of amphibious deity whose offspring are the Deep Ones, which are also in this game. We're going to start off with necrotic flesh to give this guy a real sickly pallor for the base coat of his flesh. This mini was painted as part of the hashtag MyMiniYourMini challenge on Instagram. Stick around for the end of the video to see the results from all of the other painters who took part in the challenge. Step 1 complete. He's looking gross. Well, grosser. Next up, I took some deep blue to start working on the shorts. Now, I know that jorts are sort of a John Cena thing and he's a bit of a perennial baby face, but for every yin there is a yang, so I thought this monster, this horrible monster, could also have, an affinity for the jorts. Next up, taking some oak brown to work on the shirt. The end goal for this shirt is to have it look kind of like a worn-out leathery vest or just, whoa, that was weird. So just basically a worn-in shirt that's all ripped up. Also taking the brown here to color in a base coat for the shaft of this tool, which looks something like a half pickaxe. This is the second version of the mini. The original one was even more ambiguous. Taking some wizard's orb, and I'm going to go over all of these little boils and pustules all over the mini, giving them a first base layer of something that's going to end up looking really gross. I'll be coming back over all of these spots again with lighter and lighter colors to give them a more orbish, shiny look. Now I'm using a mixture of different colors from my palette, and I'm basically giving a bluish green tint over all of the skin on the mini. I want it to become bluer as we work towards the highlights here. A lot of these details are going to get kind of muddied up when I eventually put a shade over everything, but I'm getting some good feel for the mini here and just trying to make sure that I have this nice base coat going on, and once I'm happy with where that is, I'll be able to put the shade on and then bring the highlights back much more prominently. I'm using some ash gray off of my palette and basically giving this guy a little bit of horseshoe male pattern baldness. I'm grabbing the jungle green, and with this really vibrant color, I'm gonna fill in the eye sockets. My end goal for the eyes is to have this kind of glowing, eerie effect coming from them. I'm also going to use this to do a second pass over all the boils and pustules, basically just giving each one a little dot. I'm not really doing full coverage here, just kind of picking up a little bit of a specular highlight. Using the fur brown, I'm going to add some highlights to the shirt, mostly hitting the raised edges. There's some really deep folds on this one, so it's pretty easy to do. As you can see, it really helps to flip the mini around a lot to get to the spots where you need to add the paint. This is where having something to hold your mini really comes in handy. I'm just using a recycled coffee cup from a Keurig machine, and this had the added benefit of having a hole in the top where I could insert the peg from the foot of the miniature. Now I'm going to take some ultramarine blue and I'm going to do some highlights on the shorts in a very similar manner. I'm just going around trying to get the most raised parts and add a few little highlights. I'm also taking this moment to put a little bit of a highlight here on the shaft of this pickaxe. I decided that I really wanted to grime this thing up, so I'm going to use some dark tone and go over basically the entire mini here. And that's going to give me room to come back with those really vibrant colors and bring everything back up to a really good highlight. Everything's looking a bit muddied here, but there are some nice dark tones in a lot of the recesses now, which is going to be helpful for later. At this point, I'm just adding some Void Shield Blue to my wet palette because I'm going to use it both on its own and in mixtures with other colors as I go through this highlight step. First of all, though, I'm starting back with my base tone for the skin, which is Necrotic Flesh, and I'm bringing back some of that original color. This time when I'm doing the highlights on the upper part of the body, I'm paying more attention to the shape of the musculature here. And I'm doing that because I already have my deepest shades in the recesses now. And by building up these lighter and lighter layers, a little bit smaller each time, it's going to give a lot of definition and shape to the arms. On the face, I'm trying to get upper cheekbones and tip of the nose, the top of the ears, things like that to bring out some highlights. Starting here at the top of the head, I'm going in with the lighter color, and you can see as I add that to the arm, we're starting to see a little bit more of that definition that I said we're going for. Back to the arms with another even lighter shade. I'm happy to get some practice with this technique as I've never used it before, and I have a lot of minis coming up that are really filled with musculature, and I think this is going to help me make those look better than if I hadn't had this practice. I think it's important to note that for beginner painters, of which I consider myself one, we really have to try new things in order not to plateau. So trying out new techniques and seeing if they work or if we can get them to even kind of work is always a great first step towards really making an improvement in our overall level of quality. So here, my goal was to try and get the arms looking a little bit better than I had on other minis, and I think that I'm starting to understand what I need to do with this, and I'm happy with some of the progress I have here. Going over now, bringing out a few more highlights in the head. I'm coming back in with the Wizard's Orb, going into the eye sockets to get a base for that sort of glowing gradient I want to have at the end, and I'm also going back over all the boils and pustules because after the dark tone they got muddied up. So this is going to be nice because they're still going to have kind of like an edge ring of that grime, but now I'm going to bring back the colors and work them up to kind of a slicker, shinier, bulbous look. I believe here this is a little bit of a mix of the Wizard's Orb and the Jungle Green, just trying to get another lighter color to go into the eye sockets and to hit some of those boils and sores. At this point, I'm using a dry brush to go over the shirt and bring up the highlights of the light brown on the raised edges. Due to the quick shade, I also had to go back in with some of my deep blue and bring out the base color of the jorts again. Here you can see me going in with some light brown and doing some very targeted edge highlighting over the most raised folds of the shirt. The quick shade also dulled out the highlight that I had put on the shaft of the pickaxe, so I bring that highlight back. Here I'm using some of that Void Shield blue to really bring out one of the final steps for this glow effect in the eyes. While there were some features on the face that I wanted to have this bluish, greenish kind of glow or underwater kind of look to it, I did go back in with sort of a darker color and take down that glow in a couple of the lower areas. Here, I'm just taking a small brush and trying to lightly dry brush on a little bit of variation into the facial hair. The original metal coat I had on the pickaxe was just a really light coat that I had from when I had the paint out for another mini, so I decided I wanted a little bit more, so I put some on here. Next, I used some watered down Void Shield blue, and I'm just going over the entire mini because I wanted it to have more of a bluish hue. At this point, I'm basically just going around doing some final highlights, some touch-up work. I did put new metallic paint on the pickaxe, so I go over that with some dark tone to darken it up and kind of keep it in line with the rest of the mini. On the head now, I'm basically just trying to do some blending to make sure that everything has a nice little gradient and it's not just stark contrast and sharp lines. Going back in, do a little more highlighting. And now I take the shining silver and I'm going to use that to do some edge highlighting on the pickaxe. Here I'm taking the dry rust effects paint and I'm going to be putting that on the pickaxe because basically this guy wouldn't have a brand new pickaxe. This is something old and worn out, well used. I decided that the jorts were a little bit too vibrant, so I go over them with some watered down brown and I'm basically just trying to dirty up everything here, and then I'll come back in with a few little highlights to brighten it back up. I decided that this mini could really benefit from some glistening blood, so I put some on a brush here and I'm just misting it around to get a little bit of fine spray, and then I'm going to go in with a brush and I'm going to add larger splotches. Try to have some logical sense for where these are going. I probably could have added a bit more onto the leg as well, but I stuck mostly around the upper body. And here we have my final result. Overall, I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. I did learn quite a bit of new things on this that I think I can explore and develop further as I go on painting other models. Here's our gallery for hashtag #MyMiniYourMini for The Child of Dagon. Once again, if you like what you see here, why don't you consider checking out all of these artists on Instagram? I'm going to put links to their information below in the description for this video. If you want to join us for My Mini Your Mini, we paint a new mini every Thursday. So just message one of us and see if what we're painting this week happens to be in your collection. Thanks for watching, everyone. We have new videos every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday here at Foster the Meeple. If you like this video, please consider subscribing and leaving a like. If you want to watch some more videos, we have a couple suggestions here for you. You can also check us out at Foster the Meeple on Instagram, where we post frequently. Thanks for watching.